For most of my adult life, I struggled with an addiction to drugs and alcohol. The drug addiction was so bad that I hated myself and I didn't believe I would ever find a way out. I could literally go on for days about the terrible things I did, the awful situations I found myself in, just for one more high. I've always been a drinker, but the drug addiction was such that I was not able to see yet that I also had a problem with alcohol. So from my mid-30s to my mid-40s, I attended a 12-step program, and I admitted myself into about 3 different outpatient rehabs. I was usually able to string together 6 or 8 months, clean and sober, here and there. Um, but the devil always dragged me back out into that life. Um, so after about 10 years of all the frustration and failure, I decided to get serious with the program, and I got about 2 years clean from drugs. But I had stopped going to meetings, and I started drinking again. So the devil saw another opportunity to get me. And in the summer of 2012, I relapsed one more time on drugs. By the grace of God, it was relatively short-lived. But after that, I noticed that I was becoming just as consumed by alcohol as I had been with drugs. This escalated over the years to the point of obsession. If I wasn't drinking, I was thinking about drinking. And I just remember so many times crying out to God, please take this from me. So around the beginning of 2013, I began looking for a church, and a friend of my daughter's invited me to his Tabernacle. I came to service, and I knew instantly that this was the church for me. I went up for salvation that very first day, but I wasn't consistent. I fell away many times. I kept on drinking, but I kept on praying for the obsession to be removed. One day in September of 2017, I decided to try to quit. And I'll never forget the first day I was to go without drinking. I thought I'd be climbing the walls, but the obsession was gone. God took it from me. 8 weeks later, 8 weeks later, though, temptation reared its ugly head again, and I was right back at it. And after that, I thought to myself, there is no way God is ever going to bless me like that again. I figured at that point he had just given up on me. A few years down the road, though, I learned that those were just lies from the enemy, and that's not how God works. A couple years ago, I began coming to service on a regular basis, getting to know people, getting involved, still drinking. But I kept praying and I kept believing for the chains to be broken. I kept waiting for God to remove that desire. I just kept waiting for God. And then one Sunday morning after service, I was talking to a very wise friend of mine who's been down a similar road and kind of knew what I was going through. And I'll never forget the words she said to me. It was so simple. She said, you know, Leanne, God's not going to do it all for you. And that was my light bulb moment. I had to be reminded that I had to take a step forward in faith and meet God halfway. I had to take action and make a decision again to quit drinking and then let God do what God does. And 5 days later, I had my last drink. He never left me. He never gave up on me. And as I stand here today, I have been given the gift of freedom from drugs for almost 11 years. And freedom from alcohol for 204 days today. All the glory goes to God. All glory to God. So it is my prayer that my story reaches others who may be struggling with this evil thing called addiction, and that they may be encouraged and find hope that God can and will do for them what he's done for me. Amen. I overcame by the blood of the Lamb and the word of my testimony.